Welcome back. Now to Zimbabwe and a pledge from two political rivals to work together under the country's new power-sharing agreement. President Robert Mugabe and new Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai signed the deal on Monday. While it aims to end Zimbabwe's political and economic crisis, the agreement also promises to ease press laws to create an open media environment. So, what are the real prospects for Zimbabwe's media and indeed foreign journalists, many of whom are banned from reporting inside the country? Well, for their thoughts, I'm joined by CNN's Nkabile Mabuse. She was reporting from Zimbabwe earlier this week. She's now in Johannesburg. And here in the studio is Lance Guma, producer and presenter with Southwest Radio Africa, a station which broadcasts from London into Zimbabwe. Nkabile, what was it like in Zimbabwe?
Well, Fanula, firstly, when we found out about this deal, that the deal would be signed, a power-sharing agreement would be signed, we asked the Zimbabwean authorities, the information ministry in that country, if we could come and cover the signing event. And they said no. CNN is still banned in Zimbabwe, despite expectations that this power-sharing deal would really usher in a new era in Zimbabwe. They said CNN is biased and we are not allowed to broadcast from Zimbabwe. So we had to do this secretly. I mean, we were reporting from a secret location. We couldn't freely move around in case we were detected. So it was very, very frustrating and very difficult to cover the story. But we were in there and we managed to speak to people on the ground and really find out what Zimbabweans thought about the future of their country following the signing of this agreement, Fanula.
So, Nkabile, if there was any expectation that it might be easier to move around Zimbabwe this time around because of the incoming transitional government, this was not the case in your experience?
Well, for now, Fanula, the old guard is still in charge. We're hearing that the new government may come into effect next month, only in October. So really, I think things will change very slowly. And also, according to this deal, you know, there are some clauses about the media in the deal, but it doesn't say anything about international media. It only mentions local Zimbabwean media. So we don't know really. We're just hoping that the information ministry will not be run by the same people who've been running it all along, who have banned CNN and other international news agencies, that there will be room for us to actually go in there and start reporting freely.
Lance Guma, you are involved with a radio station based in London that broadcasts into Zimbabwe. What are your expectations about this agreement between the government in relation to the media?
Well, I think, to be honest, everyone is playing a wait-and-see game. Although this agreement talks about freeing up the airwaves and inviting as many media houses as possible to come and operate in Zimbabwe, there's no real clarity of when this can be done. And the same repressive legislation, AIPA and POSA, are still in place. So the legislative environment has not really changed. Everyone is awaiting Constitutional Amendment number 18, which is expected to usher in those amendments.
There is a line here in the agreement that says the parties hereby agree that the government shall ensure the immediate processing by the appropriate authorities of all applications for re-registration. What does that mean? Presumably one had to be registered before one can apply?
Well, that's very ambiguous. No one knows what that really means. But in fact, the whole agreement that was signed on Monday still has to be constitutionalized. It has to be made law. Even the post that they created of Prime Minister, which is why I think Tsvangirai was referring to himself as a Prime Minister designate. It will only be in August when Parliament reconvenes that all these things can be made, October, that these things can be made into law. So the same applies. The legislative environment has not really changed, so nobody really knows what to expect. In fact, I was talking to Wilf Mbanga, the editor of the Zimbabwe newspaper that publishes from the United Kingdom.
And who's been a guest on this program as well.
Yeah, and Wilf was saying it's business as usual for them. The same punitive import duties, 70% in foreign currency, which they're paying, still remain. You know, and for them, he can't really tell his correspondents who are working in Zimbabwe, you know, hey guys, everything is okay, you can now come out in the open. There are no guarantees coming from anyone. And I think the biggest problem is we don't have a government in place right now that is running the country. So you don't know who to address in terms of these issues if you want answers.
And Kabili, did you get any sense of optimism among the people you spoke to in Zimbabwe about the future, and particularly Zimbabwean journalists still working there?
Well, the people of Zimbabwe have been very patient over the years, and when we spoke to them, I mean, many of them say, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, these are political rivals. Just last year, Morgan Tsvangirai was brutally assaulted by police while in custody, and Robert Mugabe said, well, Tsvangirai asked for it. So these are political rivals who have pledged to work together, and many Zimbabweans are saying, well, wait and see if this really does work, if these two can actually together try and lift the country out of the economic disaster that has been created over the years.
I mean, Lance Guma, do you think, as a Zimbabwean exiled for 6 years, that you are free to go home now?
Well, like I said, it's a wait and see approach. People believe a leopard does not change its spots, and still having Mugabe as president is a worry for many people, which is why this deal has really been greeted with such skepticism from almost everyone. Speak to people in the diaspora, everyone is not happy with this deal. And I think just going through the whole agreement, it does suspiciously look like a collection of arguments from Mugabe. It talks about sanctions from the West. It talks about the irreversibility of the land reform exercise. It talks about foreign-funded and hosted radio stations. All these are arguments that we've been hearing from Mugabe. And so it does look like he has gone into this agreement, made the opposition sign and say, see, all these things that I've been saying all these years have been acknowledged in this agreement, and the opposition have signed. So there is a worry there that he might be using this agreement as a window dressing to get the economic pressure of his presidency.
And Kabili, we all know what Robert Mugabe thinks of the international media and to a large degree the domestic media. What do we know about the thoughts of Morgan Tsvangirai about the media?
Well, I mean, the day after the agreement was signed, Morgan Tsvangirai was doing interviews with everybody, international media and local media. So if the MDC does get the information ministry, there is hope that things will change. There is hope that, ourselves, CNN and other media organizations that have been banned in Zimbabwe will be allowed to go and report from inside that country. Fanula.
We'll leave it there. Lance Guma here in London, and Kabili Mabuse in Johannesburg. Thank you very much. Now, the pictures, the scandals, the juicy gossip. The former editor of Britain's Heat magazine, Mark Frith, spills the beans on spilling the beans when we come back.